The cute eyes.
Oh,
It says we're live.
It lies.
So let's do the cards.
oh,
Do you want to do them or you want
I'll
me
do
to
the
do them?
cards.
Okay.
I did so well last time.
That'll be a repeat. Try this.
Oh,
We have graphics now. We are a graphic podcast. That doesn't sound right. Among the Leaves Tees, tinyurl.com/Among the Leaves Tees for all your snarky t-shirt needs. Please tell him who sent you, because then he'll know. King Harv's Imperial Coffees. King Harv supplies all our coffee needs, and he should supply yours too. And I believe he still has the geisha blends on sale, so you can get premium coffees for low prices, at least relative to King Harv's prices. And last but certainly not least, ko-fi.com/the blanket fort to keep the AC on, because today I think we will hit 100 degrees.
yeah, it does seem that way.
That's just the pale version for more readability.
It's cooler for summer.
Yes, cooler for summer. What is the rule? Never wear white after Labor Day?
No, yes.
My personal rule is never wear white because I will spill something on it.
Yeah. There was a period of my life that I wore the natural colored linen as much as possible because I always had a big iced tea, like a big unsweet iced tea, cold and bitter, like I like my men. And
we're now getting a look from Ian's direction.
And but anyway, it was the closest I could come to having generally tea stained garment, or like it was camouflage. It's just like I'm inevitably going to spill this. I'm very busy and I can't wipe up after myself. So
yeah, I have a blue shirt, pale blue, that I spilled coffee on while I was in an airport recently, and the coffee stain didn't quite come out, and I suppose I could just dip the whole thing in coffee and call it deliberate.
That's what, speaking of camouflage, I've been having a theory that, here we have this ultra fine red dust, Red River and all whatnot. My theory is what you really ideally should do is take as much of that dust as you can, make a paste and make a little swatch of it, let it dry, take it to the paint store and have them match that, and then just paint your walls that, and then you never have to dust. Is that brilliant?
I think in my experiment of making my own inks, I've also dabbled with the concept of making my own paints, and some of our native Texas topsoil would indeed make a very good reddish orange paint.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't take much work.
That reminds me, I was thinking about something. I've been watching a lot of pottery videos, not because I intend to do any pottery, but because it's interesting to see the process. But people are going out and collecting natural clay and that kind of thing.
Yes.
If you break terracotta pots, you can put the shards you could powder it down and reconstitute it as.
So what you can do with a terracotta or other unglazed pot is you can actually grind it and use it as what's called grog in the clay. So clay by itself, some clays will actually melt at high heat, and they can actually be used for glazes or what's called a slip for decoration.
Right.
But if you mix the clay with grog, which is sand or other coarse material, then it gives it a better body.
Gives it some infrastructure. Yeah.
And it'll hold together one time. So when you're collecting wild clay, it's just random clay that you find out there, you do tests on it to test for shrinkage and what happens when you fire it. Does it melt? And that way you kind of figure out how much grog you add to it. So anywhere from 10 to 30% roughly.
Okay.
So it can be quite a lot. So yeah, you could absolutely take and grind down terracotta and then put it back into the clay body to use as grog.
Yeah.
It would be a lot of work.
Yeah, it really would. Yeah, I mean, obviously you need to be in the pottery business anyway to go to that much trouble. The reason I was thinking about it is I have a couple of gorgeous pots I bought last year, and they're big, thick, and they're from Italy. They're absolutely gorgeous, and they have bees on the outside, which I
Ooh,
love.
yeah.
And I had plants in them in the fall, and when we got our first freeze, I thought, well, I'm going to douse. What I typically do is I douse all my plants and make sure they're well watered. The water helps trap some air in there
Right,
and helps
right.
it to be insulated from.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
my plants generally do well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this was very strange, and I wonder if the bottoms of them had already started freezing, because there's a line, and the pots are about this tall,
Yeah.
and about this far up. There's a horizontal crack around
Yep.
both pots.
It's called spalling. And what happens is when water freezes, it expands.
I know.
And if it was trapped in the pot, it just popped the pot.
Yeah. So I think that it had. I think that
Probably had already started to freeze when
Yeah.
you added more water to
So
it.
I suspect, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then so then all that water was trapped and didn't flow through.
Probably. And spalling is one of those things that if you have terracotta pots that you leave outside all winter, because terracotta is porous and it pulls moisture into it, and then if it freezes, you'll often note over the years that your terracotta planters will spall and they'll
Ooh.
crack, flake, and crumble. So they're not the best things to use for long-term outdoor planting, but that's why a lot of the planters are glazed, because they're not porous then.
Yeah,
So
I'm looking for a photograph I took last week. Has it been that long? I took a photograph. I've got this little pig pot on my porch,
mm-hmm.
and it is, it hasn't cracked or anything, but the exterior, especially of the topmost part, is turning powdery.
Yes.
And just kind of dissolving.
Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what's happening.
It's really,
So.
It's kind of a shame, because it's a little piggy, and it's just the most adorable little vessel. I really want to show you, but
I love some of the planters, the plant pots that I have seen are just so cute. They make them in all different shapes. I have one that is the shape of a little bear's head,
mm-hmm.
and when you put the pot in, it looks like hair or fur growing out of the top.
Okay,
so
I'm going to try
ones.
I'm going to try and show y'all. This is, can you see the little head? This is from the top of the head, and you see how it's kind of powdery looking?
Yeah, that's probably exactly what's happened. Is it has moisture, and then when it freezes, it's just breaking it.
And this is kind of the front of the piggy's face. Yeah, anyway.
Terracotta is not a very durable pottery. And it's like one of the things, we'll see if we can get us back in focus now.
Come on. Sorry.
No, it's okay. It'll fix itself eventually, I think.
Things are nice or blurry.
I was going to say, this means I don't have to worry so much about not having put on makeup if it's going to be nice and blurry.
You look lovely, and you look so young, too.
Yes,
it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
It's not a bad thing. It's just, makeup and I are not old friends.
Yeah.
So I did not grow up wearing makeup. My mom didn't wear makeup, so I never learned. And then when I was a face painter for so many years, that's a whole different style of making up your face. So I will occasionally wear makeup, but it's incredibly rare.
Yeah, I don't. Well, I don't wear a lot. I do love my lippy.
We're out of focus.
There
we go. Ian came to the rescue and focused us.
Put the Vaseline back on that.
No.
Yes, Jesse's quite right. Soft focus. That's what they used to do.
No.
Is you would take and screw on this little lens clear glass,
Vaseline,
and then put Vaseline on it, and that was how they did those soft focus glamour shots back in the day.
I'm ready for my close up, Mr. DeMille, as long as you put the Vaseline on. That could be taken many ways.
Yes, it could.
Wow, the comment section is off the rails.
Yeah, Kermit says, "Hey, I never wear makeup either." Yes, and for that we are grateful, Kermit.
Well, I do.
Good makeup is expensive. You are correct on that, TC Ross. You can get cheap makeup, but you're gonna regret it, generally speaking.
Yeah, and also, you might as well buy the stuff. I mean, there's also a matter of what's in them,
Exactly.
which we probably don't question enough with things, but. Makeup should be to enhance, and
Yes.
my mother wouldn't let me wear makeup until I was, I don't know, a long time. It was years and years of me begging to wear makeup before I could.
Mm-hmm.
But she always told me not to. You're not covering up. You're wanting to enhance. You
Yeah.
don't. And that's the other thing. I don't understand these people. You see the people who do the makeup, and you would not recognize them without makeup. I think it's horrifying to not know what somebody actually looks like. And I do approve of for certain things.
Well, theater, I mean, that's kind of the point. But
Yeah.
theater makeup is not your everyday makeup.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be.
I do approve of the way that it what is the photo ID technology where they're
Facial recognition.
yeah, facial recognition. I love that it throws those off. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Well, because if you do it right, and I've seen people do this, where if you do the lights and the darks and stuff, you can make your face look like it's completely. It really is. It's like me painting on paper, and with a 2D medium trying to imply depth and shadows, and you can do that with your face. I just don't really see the point of. I mean, in my case, especially because I wear glasses, a little mascara and eyeshadow is sometimes nice if I am going to bother to wear makeup, because makes my eyes more visible behind the glass.
yeah.
Yeah, but I've worn glasses since I was like 14. So
makeup everywhere. One was dark and light, and the light went up in the face,
Yep.
and the black went on the light was my face, and I did that thing to my
yeah, yeah. Camo paint.
Yeah, thank you. Kevin.
Yes, there's been a couple of mentions in the feed about camo paint and 3-color and provided free by the Army. Although Sanford has told me stories about camo paint and how badly it made him break out, so he chose to use like soot and dirt, which is your original camo paint.
Burnt cork.
Yep, burnt cork, old charcoal from the fire, the fire that's been out for
Probably.
a while.
Well, if you're a real man, the fire doesn't have to be out.
Marines.
Marines.
I'll have you know that my parents knew each other. I was in the Army.
Yes, but you had a full ride scholarship offered to you to become a Marine officer. You would have been a very different man.
You would have been miserable.
Oh, yes, that's the other thing, is the eyebrow situation. And I can totally understand when you get to a certain age and you suddenly have no eyebrows anymore. I can understand either painting them back. It's a ladies' thing. You get to a certain
When
age.
do I get to that age? Because
Guys go the other way. So the ladies lose the eyebrows, and the guys gain all that extra.
They get the Mentat eyebrows.
Yes.
If you have a good barber, he sticks a comb in your eyebrow and takes the edge of the clippers and runs it across and keeps them at a normal length.
And don't forget to do the ears and the nose while you're at it,
Yes.
because you get all the extra hair.
Speaking of body hair,
This podcast is about to go interesting directions.
there was this thing that my sister and I would always do, and the funny thing is,
Oh, that's a bad sign.
my brother he's about to be 61 next month, and the thing is, we actively freak him out. And I don't know if my hair's long enough to do it, but we would take our hair.
Oh no, mine's not long enough, but yes, I get the idea.
We would make armpit hair.
That is awesome.
And Ian is broken again.
My hair used to be long enough. I could have done that. I'm sad I didn't think of it.
He can't handle it. It's like,
No.
he has like an OCD meltdown. It's like, oh, dude, grow up. It's just hair. It's not really attached. It's not really armpit hair. He's very, very morally opposed to armpit hair, and which is really ironic because he's a very hairy dude.
Well, I mean, it's the masculine feminine thing of
Yeah.
men tend to be more hairy and women tend to be less so.
Yes.
We hope. But you know what I hate?
What?
When you give a friend a sincere compliment on their mustache, and suddenly she's not your friend anymore.
I'll never forgive you for that.
Eh,
You know what's funny is I need to go. I'm way overdue for a wax of my lip ferret, and I was trying to during jury duty. I'm sorry, I've got to go back to jury duty. It always comes back to jury duty, but in the middle of jury duty, I had an opportunity to go get it done, and then I was worried that they wouldn't recognize me without the mustache when I came back in. So I just thought, I blew it off. So it's been coasting. I've been riding dirty for weeks and weeks. It's rough.
and it really isn't that noticeable.
That's because I plucked the worst ones. I've got these like little broom straws that I can't believe I'm talking to the people
Hey,
about
Ian,
this.
what's it like living with Rita? Oh, here you go.
It's colorful.
Well, I know
She
that
has.
I
no
know that
filter.
our chat is mixed, men and women, and internet somethings.
There are things you shouldn't talk about in mixed company.
but it's very real, and that was one of the things I saw recently in a Substack note of all places. Was the note says something to the effect of, "I don't want to see your carefully curated influencer comments. I want to see real life and authenticity." And my immediate thought was, do you really want to see all
Can you
of
handle
Yes.
the sassy?
real life?
Bill said, I knew she was a real platinum blonde because that was the color of the hair around her nipples.
Oh no. I don't know, Kermit. I think your original stream of consciousness is better than having fixed that to consciousness next.
We are not enabled.
Oh, and we may have a guest on the show here in a moment.
Y'all can break him.
Yeah, Nancy, Nancy says, if I'm ever in a coma, please deal with those couple of nasty hairs that show up occasionally.
Oh my
Because I
gosh,
think we
Nancy.
all have them.
Are we twins? You know what? I told my mom and my sister, remember, I don't know if y'all would know in Dallas, Fort Worth, about, 30 years ago, there was a preacher named Walker Rayleigh who, he was, I don't know what kind of church he was a preacher of, but he very famously had his wife, someone broke in and tried to kill his wife. And
Oh.
anyway, she ended up surviving, but in a coma state.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a very famous court case. He ended up being tried for murder, and because he tried to kill, or for attempted murder.
Attempted murder.
And
yeah.
Anyway, at some point, I'm sure that her family wanted the public to know what the lowdown, and so they had a local news channel come in and film her in her vegetative state, and she had been a lovely lady, and
Mhm.
And she had some ball and facial hair, and I told my mom and my sister at that time, like, if I'm ever in a coma, you better come in and just wax the crap out of my face. I will haunt you if
This is something that should go into your advanced care directive.
priorities, priorities. Anyway.
Yeah, and I think that's one of those things that, and this is going to sound random, and I'll come back. So a lot of the cookbooks that I have, the older ones
Mhm.
up to about 1940-ish,
Mhm.
it seems to go away after that, have a section in the back for invalid care.
Oh, interesting.
So, and it's like foods that you can make for invalids,
Mhm.
which frankly sound nasty because there's literally no flavor. It's
Yeah.
like rice and milk ground up together to create a porridge.
Hold on.
But in it also talks about, in a few of them, it talks about how to take care of someone that's bedridden
Mhm.
and things like how to move them and how to bathe them.
Mhm.
Because up until the advent of antibiotics, really, because I think that's my theory of why after the 1940s you don't see it as much in cookbooks
Mhm.
anymore. But I think up to that point, there were so many people that were ill and had to be cared for so frequently, and we had such a higher mortality rate, that knowing part of that was part of every housewife's role in life, was that she was going to be taking care of sick people.
Oh yeah.
Well, you guys are out here having all kinds of fun. I just posted everywhere that Vice Noir is live.
Oh yay, Vice Noir is live. Awesome. Great. Well, Dan, if you take rice and milk and add honey and butter to it, it would be much tastier. But the invalid foods, milk toast, literally milk toast. And and we've gotten Nancy to change her advanced care directive.
Okay.
There you go.
I think we're all going to change it after this.
So
Just don't let me be in charge of that advanced care directive, or else I will wax everything, including the top of the head.
Okay. Luckily, he's not going to be in charge of that.
no. Oh, we now have a full blanket fort of people. So if there's a little momentary chaos until things settle down again, that's fine. Yes. So, okay, this weekend, and which started like 10 minutes ago when someone walked in the door.
It started Monday.
Well, I'm saying the weekend started 10 minutes ago. The Raconteur Press is having a retreat, and it's happening here at the Blanket Fort. So we are going to spend the weekend. We're going to be spending the weekend
little Ian.
planning.
Poor helpless, overwhelmed little Ian.
We'll be planning out the entire 2026 schedule for boys' books, novels, anthologies, and just random whatever else we can plan ahead. Because you have work, TC Ross. You have a novel to finish and a boys' book to write for me. Go for it, ma'am.
Dogs and cats living together. It's going to be anarchy.
So it's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, we are going to be working hard. And this is going to be interesting, trying to plan out the coming year, because so if we look back, 2023, we were still figuring it out.
Yeah.
We're still figuring it out.
You mean
we're always going to
2024?
be figuring out. No, 2023, we were just barely nucleus of what was going to be coming. And then we hit 2024, and we did 24 anthologies plus some in 2024. For 2025, we are well on track to do 25 anthologies for 2025. We will not be doing 26 in 2026. We have proved that we could do this. And once you have proven yourself, you do not need to keep proving yourself over and over again.
Yeah.
Moving on to different challenges, new and
So 52 and 26?
No. So French toast with rum instead of vanilla flavoring. I approve of this, Richard.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I'm
should
down.
Do that.
I'm down.
DC Ross, I'm the raccoon that keeps walking into the cat trap for the cat food. Well, of course, because what raccoon is going to pass up the cat food? Cat food is tasty and high protein.
Mm-hmm.
I have, speaking of critters walking up and taking things.
Mike is here, by the way.
Yes, I knew Mike was here. We kind of mentioned that obliquely. We have a Mike Burke.
Talk about me all the time.
We have a Mike Burke in the house.
We can put you on screen. You want to come? You want this spot?
Hold on.
Slower, Mike. Slower.
Brain bleach.
This always happens at my space. Not. We don't need to talk.
You're not going to come.
Oh, I'll come sit down.
You can sit down if you want to.
So
Come and tell us what's new, Mike. How was your trip?
So armpit hair. It's apparently. I don't know. I got up about 4 a.m. and left the house at 4:30, and it's just afternoon, and I'm here.
That was a lot of driving. Very
It was
quickly.
a little bit. About 7.5 hours with a couple of stops.
A couple of stops is good. 7.5 hours straight. Well, okay. Most fuel tanks won't go that far.
No. I actually filled up twice. I think I could have made it the second time, but I was down past a quarter tank, and my SOP is like, the zombies might come. I'll need at least a half a tank of gas.
Oh, yeah.
So
I get down past a half a tank. I grew up rurally enough and out west enough that the half a tank is your red line of it's time to fill up.
Once I get to half a tank, I start getting
No, he did not bring any squirrels. We've already got enough squirrels. We do not need more squirrels.
Have a Burke in stock. Oh,
Oh, that's bad. So bad.
Jesse, you need to get it out now before you get here.
Did someone mention Burke and Hare?
No.
No. But it's possible that someone could get right burked.
Oh. Oh. Now, I think it was a squirrel that took the peach off my tree, because I picked all the peaches, my first peach harvest, because I woke up in the middle of the night with a premonition that it was time.
Mm.
And when I walked out this morning, I found a half-eaten peach laying in the parking pad of the house. So I'm like, it's
That
time.
was that was the
Yeah.
that was the squirrel telling me.
Oh no, Bam
What
Boncher. I came home last week with a kitten riding in my engine. That can end very badly for a kitten.
Well,
I mean, we don't really care about squirrels.
that's awful. Why don't you let it ride in the car with you? You're terrible.
What could not be awful for the driver is when squirrels nest, or not squirrels, mice nest in the heater unit over the winter.
And as soon as you turn on your heater, that is a stink. Ooh.
That is unpleasant.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Don, people try and give you stray dogs because you are such a good dog. I hate to say parent. That's not the right word. Dog keeper.
You only drove a quarter of a mile, so that was the one kitten that survived? Is that what we're saying? Okay.
Well, I know John Martin, who's one of our authors, and I've worked with him on covers a few times, was trying to find a home for a stray kitten.
No.
I know. Well, and he lives several hours away, so I'm safe, thankfully. But
No.
if anyone down closer to the Austin area is looking for a black kitten, get in touch with John Martin.
It's very cute.
A sentient void would be a lovely addition to any household. But not mine, because we're at 2 cats and that's our max.
I'm at full cat capacity.
Yes. Full cat capacity is indeed a thing. Oh, Don, 140 pounds of 1-year-old pup. Is he done growing? Hopefully, please say he's done growing.
Bring him to visit.
No, we do not need that. We don't need a dog at all, let alone one that weighs as much as you do.
I weigh more than 140 pounds.
Not if that dog hasn't finished growing, you don't. Oh, husky puppies. Good heavens. Oh, so I went out for a walk this spring and met a husky and his owner too, but the husky was the important part.
Yeah.
And this husky was looking at him head on. He was square. He was a little chubby. So he was like square cross section.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, a husky in Texas, especially an overweight one, is not going to be a happy dog come July.
No. I was going to say,
Oh,
that's not a, no, I'm just seeing unending panting beginning in May.
and shedding,
Yeah.
constant shedding, so much shedding. I mean, we have 2 cats and we have all the shedding. And I can't imagine a dog with a full triple layer undercoat.
Yeah, why would you bring that dog to Texas?
People buy them in
Given the way
South.
the owner looked, I'm going to guess he was stationed here at Shepherd.
Okay. So, yeah, brought it with
Yeah.
him with his orders, probably.
But people
All right.
buy them in the South, and I'm always
All right.
going.
People don't understand that huskies are a high drive working dog. And it's like border collies. You do not buy a husky or a border collie
Yeah.
and you try to live with them in an apartment.
Or the Malinois, right? Like they need
Oh my
jobs.
gosh,
They need
yes.
to do stuff.
They
Yeah.
need stuff to do every day, 8 hours a day.
You don't give an
Clock in,
alligator
clock
something,
out.
He'll give himself some.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh
I mean,
yeah, he will. Like your leg.
Yeah. Well, Sanford had the little puppy that wasn't supposed to be his, and he wound up with it anyway. And as she grew, she ate a wall. I mean, to be fair, the wall was partly under disconstruction in a house that needed a lot of work, but still.
Well, she also ate her way through a 1-inch thick piece of copper
Power
wire,
cable, yeah.
copper cable, She ate her way through that.
Strong move.
Mm.
And had I realized she was eating her way through it, I wouldn't have let her. I mean, that was expensive extension cord, industrial.
Yeah, and it's like I've known a lot of dogs, and we have stair-step dog training in here that is professional working with dogs. And there are some breeds that are better for people than other breeds, and it depends on your situation and what the dog is going to be doing. I mean, if you want a dog that's going to sleep on your feet and just keep you company, you don't want any of the high energy working dogs. And some of the high energy little dogs, like my mother's rat terrier, although mom's rat terrier does mostly sleep
Any
on
dog breed with the word rat in the name
they have
is
a
not
job.
a dog.
They have a job. No, okay, so rat terriers
Yeah, you
are
make them
about
into
this tall.
slippers.
Rat terriers are about
No
this
life
tall,
protected.
long legs, and they were bred to go down rat holes after the big rats and kill the rat and take care of the pest problem. So they are a very stubborn, very active, very persistent little dog, much like dachshunds who are bred for the same purpose, but with shorter legs.
Mhm.
Yeah, Jack Russell Terriers are an interesting one. I got to meet English Jack Russell Terriers, which are totally different than American Jack Russells.
Okay.
The personality is like night and day. It's Jekyll and Hyde. It really is. And the English Jacks are calm.
Hmm.
And if you've ever met an English Retriever, Labrador Retriever,
Nope.
totally different dog than the American version. Totally. It's amazing. The breeding, the lineage of the dogs makes so much difference.
No, I've heard that that's not uncommon though. When you get the same breed, but it's American,
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of people don't want like the American Shepherds anymore,
Yeah.
just because my understanding is that they were bred with that sloped hip, and the American breeds now have like really bad hip dysplasia
Yes,
and
they
whatnot.
do.
Part
Yeah.
of the problem with any breed that got popular at some point is there were a few ancestral dogs brought to America from, let's say, Germany, the Rottweiler.
Mhm.
And they're all interrelated to the point where there are consanguinity issues. And also, you get a distinctive personality because there aren't that many. Whatever the dog's personality was, the first one, all its descendants are going to have something similar.
That's why I just get American mongrels.
American
Hey,
Mongrels
much of the
are
best
the
real
best.
breed.
Yep. No, we do not backbreed to dire wolves. Also, the dire wolves that were recently born are not dire wolves. So Australian Shepherds are a whole other thing I could go on a rant about, but I won't because we have other things to talk about today.
Okay, what are we talking about?
Vice Noir is out now.
I've heard that
So
it is hard boiled and vicey and
and lots of neon.
and southern and salty, as it were.
Illustrating that was fun because not all the stories are set in Miami. They tend to be like coastal cities. I think most of them. And there's one that's set in like Kansas City, isn't there?
One that crosses New Mexico, Arizona, New Mexico.
Yeah. I didn't read all the stories. I don't read the complete story when I'm doing illustrations because the point of doing illustrations for me in an anthology is not to spoil the story. Because
Yeah, I know you got a problem with that.
well, it's
Inside
where
joke. Sorry. everybody.
I put the illustrations at the beginning of the story.
Yeah.
So if I put the illustrations at the end of the story, I could do spoilers.
Right.
And I've thought about that a few times.
Right. Well, because sometimes, the thing that's really neat about that story doesn't happen until like the
Right.
last page.
So
or
trying
whatever,
to set up, I try to generally look at like the opening scenes of the story until I find something that speaks to me to illustrate for the story, to just kind of bring it to life as the reader is stepping into it, which means that I don't usually read the whole story. Once in a blue moon, I will hit a story and it sucks me in, and all of a sudden I'm at the end. And I'm like, when did that happen? How?
It's never happened when she's read it in life. So if you can feel it coming in the air tonight, if you've been waiting for so long. Oh, Lord. Go get you a copy of I Snore. Available now.
Well done. Well done.
Indeed.
I've been waiting for weeks.
Well, we were there and we saw what you did.
Did you see it with your own two eyes?
So
wipe off
See
that
what that-
grin.
I know where you've been.
It's all been a pack of lies.
You know, this group has a lot of experts on Vice.
Oh,
Ladies and gentlemen, my world on a daily basis.
it's only getting worse as we arrive one at a time.
So I did it again last night.
Oops.
Yes, indeed. Oops, I did it again. No, we had Peter Grant over to dinner, and we're having a business conversation not related to Raconteur Press, and also just visit with a friend. But he and I were talking about the boys' books, and I sparked in him an idea for a boys' novel. That, yes, indeed, I would love to get one from him, especially when he told me what he was thinking about doing, which is
A
taking
young Rhodesian boy fighting against communists.
No,
No.
although that would be fun, and we might talk him into that next. But
No.
Sorry, I just
I think that's Ian's job. I think that's Ian's book.
No.
young boy comes to manhood, tracking communist insurgents through the Rhodesian brush.
We do not need to get canceled on our third year of existence.
no, what Peter was telling me about is a really exciting story of a group of raiders that gets marooned on an island when their ship or submarine. This is during World War I. Their ship or submarine gets sunk, and then they actually manage to get back to, because they're German, so they manage to get back to Germany safely without being captured by doing things like finding a lifeboat and repairing it and paddling it. And he was saying that it would be a really great boys story if you took it and rewrote, basically followed the story, but changed it and rewrote it as a boys adventure novel. And I
Right.
think he's absolutely right.
I think that is not a terrible idea.
Because I love the idea of they're marooned and they have to get through enemy territory to get home, and that has possibility for so much adventure, and lots of action potentially. Although honestly, if it's a small group of guys that are trying to get through enemy territory, you don't want a lot of action. You want to be quiet.
Yeah, that's kind of horrific for a boy's
Especially
adventure.
they're going to be hit with a can of paint somewhere along the way. A can of reddish paint.
What are you?
They were marooned, right?
That pun
Woo!
was also just made in the
Woo! It was made in the comments and I missed it. Yes, 2 ships collided, one carrying blue paint, one carrying red paint. 27 sailors marooned.
Here we go.
Great minds think alike.
I have the name of it somewhere in my daybook. It is called the Ayesha, and that's Ayesh. So, for those that are curious and want to look up what Peter was talking about, Jesse points out the disc can double as a frisbee.
Stop it.
No, and I think that's actually a really good idea because there are a lot of ways that you can take real history and turn it into exciting boys' stories.
Well,
And especially up until the relatively recent era in the military, you had very young boys that were off with the military doing things. Cabin boys were 12, 13.
there was a 9-year-old sergeant in the Union Army, Clem something or other. No, not Cadiddle Hopper.
It's already out of hand. We're marooned.
Oh.
Where's the paint?
No, but there's history. Drummer boys and like
drummer boys.
armies and musicians, powder monkeys, cabin
Yeah.
boys.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
There's a
you get a chance to use in a boy's book, freeze the ball, the falls off the brass monkey, and it doesn't mean what you think it means.
It's not cash in it, so
Oh, good.
Mike has been handed a mysterious envelope. So yeah, and what I was telling Jim about last week, and I don't know if it waited on the stream or if it was a conversation after the live stream, is there's an author I grew up reading called his name is G.A. Henty, and he was
never heard of him.
and that's Jim hadn't heard of him, but he was writing in the Victorian era, and what he was doing was writing stories about history from the point of view of usually a teenage boy. And Mom actually assigned those to me as supplement to history curriculum
Mm-hmm.
because they're very readable. Even, okay, honestly, I'm not an average reader, but even to me as 11, 12 and up, I was able to read them easily, and they bring little bits of history to life.
Mm-hmm.
They're all public domain, but that kind of thing is, I think, a really fabulous idea for boys' books, is to approach history through the point of view of a child living through some
Yeah,
of it.
that child's observations.
In the
Yeah.
50s and 60s, that series was called "We Were There at."
Yes, those two. We Were There with the Pony Express was like one of my favorite books.
We were there on the Oregon Trail.
Yes.
Written by Jim Curtis. I'm sorry.
Written about Jim Curtis. The
Yeah, the G.A. Henty books are at Gutenberg. They're on public domain. It used to be you could get a CD with like all of them on it, and there's about 100 of them, and that was sold as a curriculum thing for homeschooling kids at one point. So James Sharp, Drummer Boys is largely a myth. Drums were heavy. Drummer Boys is actually more likely the fife and drum. The fifes were often the very young boys because a fife is about so long. And the drums are heavy, but also a lot of the drums that they were carrying were not all that large. So don't think your average brass band, but more like the small.
a half-size snare.
Yeah, I'm not that familiar with musical instruments, but I participated in a lot of reenactments while they were wandering around with fife and drums, and they're not that big. There are larger ones, but I think it really depended on where you were and what era. Because so the fife and the drum, modern military, I don't know. I mean, I know that there's bands because the Air Force band played here at the
Marine Corps band kicked their ass.
I am sure, but the local Air Force band played at our local library here in Iowa Park. So,
well, I don't know about other military units, but like in the Marine Corps, you've got the 3MEF band and the division band and whatnot. You've got the Marine Corps Drum and Bugle Corps, which is stationed out of DC, and then the President's Own, which is, and the funny thing is all those people are actually professional musicians.
Yeah.
They're not.
They're recruited to be doing this. Yeah.
Basically, yeah. Because, you can't get, especially out of sometime, I don't know, this century, there was a stretch of time where you couldn't get a job at a symphony. Because I've talked to some of them. They're like, this is the only gig you want to be a musician to get.
Wow. Yeah. Well, but what I was going to say is if you go back further in history, music in the military was not just decorative the way it is now necessarily, but the drums were part of how they kept time and measured.
You march,
then measured how far you were proceeding.
Maybe, but someone was probably keeping a pace count.
Yeah,
but,
that's exactly it.
Also traditionally,
But the drum
band
carries
was
further.
also the stretcher carriers. They would, with their instruments, they also carried the setup for a stretcher, so they could run out and get people off the field that were taking them back to
and again, I think all of this is going to vary where you were, which military it was, what the era the battles were in. And it's going to take someone with a lot more history background than me to do them. But I do think that there's core elements that can be found to write boys' books from any
Well,
era, really.
You know what I'd like to see somebody do for a boys' book?
What?
We all know Lord of the Flies, that disgusting book about boys that were stranded on an island and turned into little monsters.
Uh-huh.
Someone to do a Lord of the Flies where they did not turn into little monsters.
So, two things. One, they've actually, I don't think they did an experiment. I think there was something that,
Uh-oh.
whoa, that was weird.
Are we still there? We split the screen.
We didn't do that on purpose, and I don't know what's visible to
I
everybody.
think we're still on YouTube right there. so.
Okay, good. So I don't know what happened. Our computer just was weird. Okay. So there was an actual situation that replicated Lord of the Flies, and that is not how the boys acted at all. And the other thing that I'm going to say is that I think we have someone that's currently writing his version of what would actually happen with the Lord of the Flies, that we'll be seeing that manuscript before too long. Not going to rush him because I know he's had life happening. So
That doesn't narrow it down much.
he writes alongside me at Mad Genius Club. Does that narrow it down?
Wow. Could it be?
Yes, indeed.
He's right
So-
my butt one time.
Oh, we have several people saying that there was a book like that already written. And Padre says it was called The Coral Island. And James Sharp says Indian boys stole a boat and got shipwrecked. The boys did fine. See, and that's exactly the thing is there's so many stories out there to be told. Bless you. Goodness.
God dang, Ian.
Yes, the real story that Lord of the Flies is based on is better. And I think those would be excellent options for. And Richard Hopkins points out that Tunnel in the Sky, Heinlein's book, Juvenile, has elements of that as well in it. And very much, and I actually wonder, I don't know, but I have to wonder if it was his response to Lord of the Flies.
It was a good book either way.
Yes, indeed. So
I was forced to read Lord of the Flies in high school.
I did too.
I was
Yes.
as well.
I remember thinking that's what sparked my hate of authors writing about stuff they obviously knew nothing about.
Yes.
Having been a little reprobate
No.
interesting, yeah. It's like this. A, he's never been a young boy in his life, and B, as a young boy, he's never stuck on an island with young boys.
Yeah.
Idiot.
Well, you know, I think that somebody should write a story about a couple of British kids in Africa that
No,
Ooh, yeah.
no.
Teenage African Warlord
No.
series.
So
Not
Starstep
getting canceled. Not getting canceled.
Stair Step Dog Training says, I thought about a modern version of My Side of the Mountain. Yes, please. Do that. Thank you. Well, the thing is, and I've been slowly collecting, here and I thought I was done buying children's books because all of my kids are grown and gone, and my youngest turned 20 yesterday, and I have an entire bookcase full of children's books, really old children's books, because
Oh, the good ones.
yeah, exactly. The good ones. And also the ones that tend to get boulderized when they're reprinted.
Mm.
So I want the older versions before the modern people started changing them.
well, I like the fact that you got the My Side of the Mountain trilogy, not
Yes.
just My Side of the Mountain.
You know,
Yes.
well, something just occurred to me too. Remember, it's funny you say that about the books, right?
Mhm.
About children's books specifically too, when we keep changing those things. Because, I don't know, wasn't it a couple decades ago, the thing you would hear is,
smells really lovely.
and it smells really lovely. Yes, that's exactly what we would hear.
I don't even know where that came from. Sorry.
Yeah, that's what people usually say. Where did that come from?
Oh no, some of us brag
People
about it.
People would say things like, I don't feel like I can impose my values on my children. When they grow up, they can make up their own mind. I don't know if you've ever heard people say that crap. Well, no, we know this is nonsense. But
Because we have more than
but
two
that
brain
was the
cells.
cultural thing people were saying. But now
We
we are imposing our
our values
by
on
changing
the past.
books and
Yeah.
you know that hypocrisy drives me bananas.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well,
No,
I still think
and-
we ought to go back in time and shoot Dr. Spock.
Okay.
Well, if you're not giving your children guidance, why do they need parents at all? I mean,
which is actually what came out of that movement. Is it went from parents don't inhibit your children to why even bother having parents? One parent is enough. No parents is enough. It takes a village to raise a child.
and
so
then
just pop it out and leave it at the doorstep of Instagram and
Well,
let them handle it.
And
the whole thing about
Yeah.
we'll stop. You need to stop thinking of those kids as your kids. Drop dead.
yeah,
Anyway,
it's and then the science fiction thing and the questions of what if this goes on, the science fiction imagining of children raised in a creche is the next step of the children are raised never knowing who their parents were at all, and that is not a healthy start to life either. And there's some interesting science and data that show what happens to a child who has disruption to their attachment bonds when they're very young, even in infancy, when you don't think that they're processing. It's still something that you can see the impact on the adult from what went on when they were very, very small, even. And we know that it affects children and their development if their mothers were under extreme stress while they were pregnant. So it's all connected. I mean, you are as a person, you are a timeline, and having those attachments disrupted of child to parents to the rest of family and community around you is difficult. And I mean, I know for me as a military brat, there's times that I look at the fact that we moved so much when I was a kid and how that affected my ability to have friendships and relationships with other people. Because we never stayed in one place for long enough for me to have really long childhood friends. And I was very attached to my sisters, and because they were always there. But it's definitely something that you can see, and it's not always a negative. But you can see the difference in how people develop when they've had different situations in childhood. Padre mentions that he went to boarding school at age 6. And yes, it probably changed you versus had you not done that. But these are also things that could get explored in boys' books as well, to bring it back in a segue here a little bit awkwardly. Because boys that are raised in a situation where they're on, say, a spaceship with a trading route and they're around whoever is on the ship with them, but they never really spend any length of time elsewhere, that is going to make them a different person than if they lived on a planet and saw other families, other kids every day of their life.
I don't know. I don't know what that would do. That would be like, I'm curious what the actual, because I grew up, my
like
dad
living in a tiny village.
My dad was a Marine, so my entire growing up was
You moved around.
moved around.
Yeah.
And then I joined the military. So up until 2018, every 3 or 4 or 5 years, I was going somewhere.
Well,
So
and I think this is also part of the reason we do see generational military families, because you're used to a PCS. And so you kind of take it in stride, whereas somebody that spent their entire life in one place, in one little tiny village, as Sanford was just saying, and then went into the military and has to move every so often is, well, first of all, when they come back to that little tiny village, they no longer fit in it. They have expanded.
You can't go home again.
And you can't go home again. And
one of the things, moving every year as a child, one of the things I've run across is people saying, I don't understand how you could do that. And I'm looking at them going, I don't understand how you stay the same
Yeah,
place.
how you can stay
for
the same
18
place?
years.
I'd lose my mind.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd lose my freaking
I've lived
mind.
I've lived where I've lived for the past 5 years, and I'm already like, when am I going to sell this house?
After you
Well, you're
fix some
moving down
things.
here,
Yeah.
right?
Especially while you were digging that yard for like yonks, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You're like,
Let's not, can we not?
sorry to bring up the painful memory. I didn't
All,
mean that.
all we need to do, Rita, is lure his wife down here.
Oh yeah,
and he'll-
I
and
love
he'll
that.
follow.
I don't think you're going to convince my wife to move to Texas. I really don't.
Aw.
But it would be a fun challenge.
She'd be a great addition to the hen party.
Yes, she would. I could absolutely imagine the three of us.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
One day.
I'm leaving.
You know, though, what you were talking about, though, I think the one thing that is an epidemic, at least in the United States, is young people with poor sense of self, poor sense of identity.
Oh, that's huge.
And I think that hypermediation of our culture, where they're on, I think one of the problems is parents plopping a device in front of their kids to babysit.
I can tell you right now, like the last few years I was in the Marine Corps, right? When a new Marine would check in, I would immediately just send them to behavioral counseling
Yeah.
class, right? Anger
Yeah.
management or whatever. Because I would go talk to all these counselors, and the Marines are showing up and they don't know how to do this.
Yeah.
Like they can't sit here and chat and make friends
Without their thumbs.
because everybody they know is in that little
Mhm.
stupid box, and they can't actually develop relationships with another human being, which is how they get into these situations where I have to send them to anger management or
Right.
behavioral health.
And that makes sense.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
was just seeing that towards the end of my career, like what is going on? Where they can't even.
Videos are now talking about how boomers especially have to quit calling them. You shouldn't ever call anybody without at least sending a text first to make sure that it's okay. And
Well, I
you
have to
shouldn't
say,
do
I'm
small
kind of on
talk.
board with that.
Uh,
When somebody just randomly calls me, I have a minor heart moment of, what's wrong?
Oh, that's funny.
I put my phone at 8:00 at night. My phone stops making noises. If you're trying to get a hold of me, give up. Right?
I have exceptions set. I have my sleep period set on the phone where it won't ring,
Mhm.
and I have exceptions set for my children and my husband.
Right.
So
No.
if they call me, it'll go through. But yeah,
I just put my phone in another room when I go to bed.
yes, which works really well.
That's simple solutions often work best.
Yes. All right, so let's talk about what is coming up next. Vice
coming?
Noir is live now in paperback and ebook. It is a fully illustrated book of 10 stories about neon, noir, and
Ferrari
Palm trees.
Testarossas.
and palm trees.
And a radioactive cover.
Yes, I had fun with that.
No socks.
No socks.
Wicker shoes.
What's coming up after
It's a no
that?
sock zone.
So the next thing up after that is Artifact Origins.
Okay.
Which is in, I think the ball is in my court to do illustrations, so I'll be working on that.
I think that's going to be a good
I
fantasy.
think we have a special guest star in that one, don't we?
Well, we have a special guest editor of John Olson, but we have a author in it that we're very excited about. Have we announced her already?
We should.
Okay,
Why
well,
not?
we have a story from Jody Lynn Nye in Artifact Origins. And we are very excited about this, partly because Jody is an awesome author, but also she's just a lovely person. And we're happy to claim her now as a Raconteur Press author. So we're very excited about that.
I don't like her. She DQ'd one of my stories from Riders of the Future one time. Yeah.
So let's see here. What do we have for open calls right now? I
Open calls. I think Sword and Sorcery is still open, right?
think, Sword and Sorcery is open until like Sunday.
Moggies
So,
of
get
Mars.
moving on it. Moggies of
Little
Mars.
Sword and Planet and
So
Sword and Planet full capacity. Sorry, I couldn't.
Okay, why do I suddenly envision Puss in Boots from the Shrek movies?
I mean, if you can write that as a Mars
Puss in
story,
Boots of Barsoom
yes, Puss in
with
Boots of
aerial
Barsoom
ships and
works.
radium guns and
Write it. There you
And
go.
now it has
That's
6
your
arms
idea
and a
for
thread.
the day.
All right. Blades and Black Magic closes in 3 days.
Yep.
Blades and Black Magic. You
closes
got 3
Sunday.
days. You can do it. You can do it.
Moggies and Mars closed the 27th.
Moggies and Mars.
And I
closes
think
on the
Planks and
27th.
Plunder is after that, right?
August 10th.
Planks and
It's
Plunder
currently open.
Arr.
opens. Okay.
Glitch
So-
Grim is currently open.
Glitch
Grim.
Grim, which is Twisted Fairy Tales with a horror element, because our guest editor for that is Steve Diamond, and his
Ted
thing
is telling you
horror.
to write that story.
What story?
You the what did I say?
He doesn't remember.
Oh.
All right, folks, let's
Some of us
wrap
have
it up.
short-term memory loss.
Let's wrap it up, and you can find us again on Tuesday. We probably will be over on Old NFO on Tuesday because Jim should be back with us.
should
He's
be.
temporarily away for a doctor's appointment. He's not good with his scheduling, but we'll forgive him because we love him.
And you know what? He's not the boss of you, so you go ahead and pet all the sweaty stuff you want.
That's right.
Right. And sweat the petty
Even
stuff
armpits.
because it's sweaty out there. I was out there pulling weeds and sweating. So Texas in the summer, never not sweaty.
Doesn't matter how much you sweat, my love, I'll still pet you.
And on that
Yeah,
note,
let's wrap that up.
bye folks. We'll see you next week.